Okay, so a trend line helps you identify a trend. Okay, a trend line is a line that goes diagonal. Okay, and that's well respected. We have price, has an impulse, and it always comes back to retest this trend line. All right, you guys, so every time it hits the trend line, we will look to enter our positions. Okay, so this trend line is helping us identify that we are on an uptrend. All right, and every time it comes back down to this trend line, we want to buy. Okay, so this is an uptrend. Okay, and we can have also have a trend going down. Okay, and okay, every time it comes back to this trend line, we want to sell. Okay, just keeping it simple, you guys. And we can also have a trend that goes sideways. All right, and these types of markets, you want to be selling at the top, buying at the bottom. Okay, so you guys, just seeing these examples, all right, there are only 3 ways that the market can move, you guys. There's only 3 ways. It can go up, it can go down, and it can go sideways. Just keeping it simple, there's only 3 ways the market can move, but there are only 2 ways as a trader to make money. Okay, there's only 2 ways to make money in this market, and that is buying low and selling high. Buying low, selling high. So if we sold up here, honestly, or if we bought down here. All right, so you guys, every single person in this market is trying to do the same thing. Every single person is trying to buy low and sell high, okay? So with trends, with trend lines, they help us identify the trend, okay? For example, if we're looking at price over here, since we know that this is on an uptrend, we know that we should only be looking for buys on this uptrend. Okay, we want to be looking for long-term buys, and you can look for short-term sells. Long-term buys, short-term sells. Long-term buys, short-term sell. Okay, if it's on a downtrend, you want to be looking for long-term sells, short-term buys. Long-term sells, short-term buys. Long-term sells, short-term buys. And in a market that is going sideways, okay, also known as a consolidating market or a ranging market, they all mean the same thing. Okay, so when a market is ranging or consolidating, it's going sideways. You want to be buying at the bottom and selling at the top. Okay, so trend lines help us identify the trend. Okay, the trend is very important because you want to be trading with the trend. The trend is your friend. All right, you can even have channels. Okay, what a channel is just 2 trend lines. Okay, and they're parallel. Okay, so you just copy and paste the first one. Okay, so these trends and channels help us identify trends, you guys. All right, the only reason we don't buy, for example, on this uptrend, so we bought here, we bought here, we bought here. And the only reason we don't buy if price ends up breaking the trend. Okay, if price, don't look over here, we're looking right here. If price breaks this uptrend, we are no longer looking for buys, okay? We are no longer looking for buys because it violated our uptrend. Since it violated our uptrend, we know that there's a change in direction of the market, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and go on to a live example on the chart. All right, so this is USD JPY. All right, and keep in mind, you guys, to create a trend, you only need 2 touches. 1, 2. Okay, you only need 2 touches. The 3rd touch confirms it. Okay, so once we get that 3rd touch, okay, we have a valid trend line. The more it touches, the better. Okay, the longer, just like wine and cheese, the older the trend is, okay, the stronger it is. Okay, so the well respected it is. Okay, so the older the trend is, okay, the more respected it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on a live example. Okay, so this again are trades that we took. Okay, so we had price starting from down here. I'm going to draw this trend line. Okay, so you guys can see we had price bounce off the trend line here, and it bounced off our trend line here. Okay, so we were looking for buys this whole time. Okay, it wasn't until it broke our trend line, and this is when we stopped looking for buys and we were looking for sells, because it broke our uptrend. Okay, since it broke our uptrend, we're no longer looking for buys. Okay, when it broke our uptrend, okay, it was going sideways for a little bit. Okay, so we had that impulse, flag retracement, impulse, flag retracement, impulse. So you guys can see how we were on a uptrend until, let me go ahead and mute the mics, make sure everyone is muted. You guys, just want to make sure everybody can hear. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we were on an uptrend until we violated this trend line. Okay, okay, so we were on an uptrend until we violated the trend line. Okay, as soon as it violated this trend line, we knew we are no longer looking for buys. We can look for selling opportunities. Okay, as soon as the market broke, okay, we were bouncing in this zone. Okay, we were bouncing in this zone. Okay, so we kind of got a mix of this break of this downtrend. Okay, we had a small pause. Okay, so one more time. We had a break of our trend. Okay, and we had price kind of pause like down here. Okay, kind of paused like it was consolidating down here. Okay, and then it continued on this. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It was on an uptrend. It broke our uptrend. It was bouncing in this zone. And then it violated that zone and it continued on a downtrend. Okay, but what I want you guys to just keep in mind is once it broke this uptrend, we were no longer looking for buys. So we actually called a sell on this position. All right, and you guys can see it went all the way down to our target. All right, and we go ahead and start fresh. Okay, so again, you only need 2 touches to create it. 3 touches confirms it. Okay, so we have a trend line right over here, a down channel that did break. You guys can see it broke, retested, and even came back down for a deeper retest, 61 fib, and it took off. Okay, so what I want you guys to just keep in mind is that we had a downtrend. All right, and you guys could, and we actually sold here and we sold again here. And we rolled this down. All right, since we knew it was downtrending, we knew we should be looking for sells. Okay, so we were looking for long-term sells and short-term buys. All right, now it did violate. Looks like it retested. So we could be reversing, or honestly, we could just consolidate. The reason I say that is because we've been moving for quite some time. All right, we were moving up, we were moving down, And price hasn't really had a chance to pause other than here. It kind of did pause over here for a little bit. It needs to always accumulate before it can move again. Okay, this is how the market works. But just keeping it simple again. Okay, we had price break this up channel. We were looking for sells. It broke this, and now we're looking for buys. Okay. USD CAD. You guys can see, again, the higher the time frame, the well respected the trend line will be. Okay, we have 1, 2, almost 3 touches. If I fix it, let me go ahead and jump down to the daily. Okay. So again, I really just like to get a lot of touches, a lot of wick rejection, which I really like this zone right here. Okay. So you guys can see every time we touched this trend line, we bounced off. We touched it, we bounced off. We came back down, touched it, we bounced off. Came back down, touched it, we bounced off. And you guys look right here. We broke the trend line. We broke our uptrend line. So we were no longer looking for buys, we were looking for sells. It broke our trend line and it came back and it touched it on the other side. Okay, so you guys can see it was on top, or price was on top of the trend line. It broke through and now price is below the trend line. All right, we actually sold over here. You see price just smashed. Okay, so now it is essentially on a downtrend. Okay, we do have a lower high, lower high, lower high. Okay, so I would like to definitely see some rejection right now, honestly. Okay. Okay, and this can also tie us down to Fibonacci. We can skip support. Actually, no, we can do all 3 on here. All right, so again, so it broke our trend line. It was on an uptrend. Violated the uptrend. We're no longer looking for buys. Does this make sense, you guys? Put a 111 in the chat if this makes sense. All right, so just keeping it simple, honestly. We use the trends in the channel to identify the trend, and we trade with the trend. If it violates the trend, we're no longer trading with the trend. Okay, just keeping it simple. All right, broke our uptrend. We're looking for sells. Okay. And all right, support and resistance. Going to talk about that next. Okay, support and resistance is the same thing. Honestly, just different names. All right, one is on the bottom, one's on the top. Okay, so for example, we have price just bouncing in this zone. Okay, so it's bouncing in these green zones. All right, so these green zones have names. Okay, we call them support for the bottom. Support is a floor. And we have a resistance. Okay. Also known as a ceiling. Okay, so you guys, if say you have a ball, okay. Say you have a ball, all right, and you have this ball and you're just bouncing it, all right. Oh, let me put 2. All right, so say you have a ball and you're just throwing it on the ground. All right, every time you throw it on the ground, what happens? The ball bounces right back up. Okay. If you throw a ball and you throw it at the ceiling, all right, what's going to happen? It's going to bounce right back down. Okay, so prices do the same thing. All right, the floor is considered support and the ceiling is considered resistance. Okay, we love taking entries once support becomes resistance or resistance becomes support. What does that mean? Okay, so you guys see how we have resistance up here? And we have support down here. So just ignore everything past, everything over here, just ignore. Okay, so right now we're only looking at the blue arrows I drew. All right, we have price just essentially just bouncing in these zones. Okay, and we had a strong impulse that broke us through our resistance. You guys, we broke through our resistance. Okay, since we broke through the resistance, okay, this resistance now is our floor. Okay, because price is now above this resistance. Okay, so we can essentially move this up. This is our new resistance, and this is our new floor. All right. So we love taking entries when we love taking entries when this new resistance becomes a floor. Okay, so what happened was we had an impulse that broke us above this zone, and we are retesting this zone, this area. Okay, we had what's it called, rejection in the past. Okay, so we have some past history. All right, so again, this used to be a ceiling, but since price broke through, it now became a floor. We love taking entries off this. Since it broke above, we're looking for buys. Okay, so price broke above. It did flag for a little bit, and then we continued. Okay, now we're at this new level. Okay, we're at a new level since price broke this past resistance. Does this make sense to you guys? So every time price breaks a level, you have a new ceiling and a new floor. Okay, so now since price broke above this previous resistance that was here, it became a new floor. Okay, and again, we had price just come over here and consolidate a little bit. Okay, but let's say we broke our trend line now. We broke our trend line. All right, now we're no longer looking for buys. Okay, we had a break of our trend line. Okay, and this used to be resistance, so this stays as resistance. This used to be a floor here, but since it broke through, this is now considered resistance. Okay, you guys, they're the same thing, they're just different names, but when they break through and they come back down and retest, this is where we like to place our entries. Okay, so this would be considered the floor. Okay, resistance to support, resistance to support. This is something I always recommend on almost every single trade execution. All right, there has to be support and resistance or resistance to support. Okay, so we had price violate our trend line. Okay, so we're no longer looking for buys, and it also broke this this previous support, now resistance. Okay, we came back and retested that resistance. Okay, and keep in mind we were back at these levels. We had touches in these zones. We had rejections in these zones. Okay, so we execute a sell here because it broke below. Since it broke below, we're looking to sell. Okay, and say it does break our support. Since it broke a support, it's not considered support anymore. It's considered a ceiling, and we have a new support found. Okay, and we have a retest and continuation. Okay, so again, support is when price is below. Okay, but sometimes price breaks levels and a new support is found or a new resistance is found. So this was considered the new support up here. Okay, we had a price consolidates, it broke above, retested, continued, and then it broke back below, retested, below, retested. So let's just go ahead and find some examples of some support and resistance. All right. Let's just stick with our USD JPY example. Okay. So we have, just looking at price, you guys, we have support, support, price broke below, okay? And when it finally came back to touch that zone was over here. We touched it, we dropped. We touched it today, we dropped. Okay, we can even go on a lower time frame and see this. All right, we can see this on almost every time frame. Just scaling down. So now we are at the 1 hour time frame. Okay. So this is resistance right now. Okay. Price broke through it over here. It retested. It broke through. Retested. Retested what? Retested this. Retested this. It's testing this, essentially what I'm saying, what I mean by retested, it's testing the same level on the other side. Okay. So we see it was on top of price, and once price broke through, it was below price. Okay, so this is support and resistance, and this is considered the new, before this happened, this was considered resistance, but since price ended up breaking through it here, okay, we were looking for a retest and continuation. So we didn't get a deep retracement, okay? And our Fibonacci tools will help us with the retracements. I'll go over that after this call, or I'm sorry, after this. But just going over, again, gold is something that really respects support and resistance. Sheesh, gold took off. Let me go ahead and remove all my drawing tools so we can start from fresh. All right, you guys. So to reiterate what I said, using our trend line to identify the trend, okay, we had multiple touches, and look what happened after we broke the trend line. As soon as we broke our trend line, we were no longer looking for buys, okay? We were looking for sells. As soon as it broke the trend line, it retested on the other side and dropped, okay? Scaling down even further, we always have support and resistance with these setups, okay? We had price is support right now because it's on top of this zone. And you guys can see it did break. It broke, it retested, it dropped. Okay. And even going on these are positions we called last week, you guys. All right. We have, again, support, or I'm sorry, resistance over here, newfound support. Okay, so essentially price broke through, retested the other side, and continued. Is this making sense to you guys? Just keeping it simple. Again, we're using trend lines to identify the trend and support and resistance to see. We can also use that to identify the trend and evaluate what price is doing, okay? And again, you can see this on almost any time frame. support, resistance, support to resistance. Okay, so we broke, retested. Okay, we tested right here, pulled back on a very, very small support zone right here. Support and resistance zone, broke, retested, broke, retested. All right, and just to summarize everything up for you guys. Okay, just keeping it simple. We have price bouncing in this zone. All right, and essentially we have, again, that the resistance and the support. Okay, so you guys, you never want to buy at resistance, and you never want to sell at support. You never want to buy at resistance, and you never want to sell at support. You always want to look for your positions when it breaks support or resistance. For example, if it breaks below support, you want to be looking to sell. If it breaks above, you want to be looking to buy. Okay, just keeping it simple. For our trend lines, we had if it came back and bounced, you want to buy for an uptrend, and vice versa for a downtrend. Okay, so this is support and resistance. Okay, so we got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to finish it up with Fibonacci's. Okay, so Fibonacci, all right, essentially it measures where you can look for entries and where you can look for targets. Okay, so say we are on an uptrend. Okay, since we're on an uptrend, we had a strong impulse up. Let's apply everything we learned too. Okay, so we have our trend line, so we know we should be buying on this. Okay, we have our support and resistance. So we had resistance right here and support. It broke our resistance, and hopefully we can get a deeper retest that touches it to get in. Okay. All right, so we're on an uptrend. It broke our resistance, became support, so we know we should be buying. All right, but now we want to know where we should be buying. Okay. So what I'm going to do, we're going to focus on here, and I'm just going to restart actually. So again, we're going to be looking on where we want to enter. So say we have an impulse up and we have that retracement. Okay, so let's measure this. For example, we have the bottom, which is considered 0, okay, or the top, which is considered 10 or 100%. Okay, so we have 0%, we have 100%. Let's go ahead and delete this. Okay, so since we have a strong impulse up, everything else is telling us that this is going to be a buy. Okay, we know this is going to be a buy, but we want to know where we're going to enter this buy. Okay, by using our Fibonacci tool, and if you guys don't know where that is, it's right over here, Fibonacci Retracement. Okay, so since it's on an uptrend, we're going to be measuring it from down to up. Okay, so what are we measuring? Okay, so again, I remember I said this is 0 and this is 100%. Okay, so price shot up 100%. Okay, and we want to know where it's going to come back to. Okay, so the Fibonacci pattern tool allows us to see our potential retracements. Okay, so we have a strong impulse up, all right, and then we have a correction back. Our favorite spot to enter is the 61.8. Okay, the 61.8 is essentially the 61% Fibonacci. Okay, so price shot up 100% and it came back down 60%. This 60% zone is essentially almost like literally the best price to enter. Okay, 61 fib retracements, 61.71 fib is our favorite spot to enter. Okay, does that make sense? So we had price shoot up 100% and it came back down 60%. We usually take our entries off the 61, and this is where we like to enter. Okay, and it also helps us find our take profit zones as well. Okay, our take profit zones are essentially anything past our initial swing. Okay, so our initial swing started from here. It went all the way up to here. Okay, it came back down. This is where we got in. Our target is usually the 27 or the 61 extension. Okay, so since this was on an uptrend, we were looking for buys. Okay, if it's on a downtrend, all right, we have a strong impulse to the downside. All right, so say we have this strong impulse. All right, but now we're looking for an entry. We know it's a sell. All right, all our confirmations are telling us it's a sell. Where are we going to enter? All right, we had the initial start of the swing and the finish of the swing. Okay, so now again, we're looking for a retracement so we can sell again, so we can write this down. But now we want to know where we're going to enter, you guys. Okay, since it's going down, we're going to be drawing from top down. Okay, since it's going down, we're going to be drawing it from top to down. All right, so top to bottom. So just measuring this again. We love seeing that 61%, the 61% retracement. Okay, so if price essentially retraces 60% back, this is where we like to enter and write it down to our extensions. Okay. Okay, so again, since it was on a downtrend, we were looking for that pullback to get in. All right, as soon as you execute that trade, you're looking to write it down to the extension. Okay, so this is Fibonacci patterns, all right? So it helps us, oh, I'm sorry, we had some questions in the chat. Matt, great question. He's asking, when it breaks the trend up or down, do we sell or buy right away, or should we wait? Okay, so this is a great question, all right? Obviously, it depends, all right? It depends on the time frame you're looking for. If you're on a higher time frame, like the daily or 4-hour, it's a higher probability that it's going to play out your way. Okay. If it's on the lower time frames, all right, you know, it's like it's not as high as the higher time frames. For example, on the daily, it's like an 85% chance the trade is going to go your way, as opposed to seeing on a lower time frame. All right, and obviously on the higher time frames, you have to be a little bit more patient. Okay, because it takes time to play out. Okay. If I think you were referring to when I was talking to support and resistance when you asked that question. So if it does break a support, there's pros and cons. So I'm going to remove all drawing tools. Okay. You guys, we have 2 minutes left, so I'm trying to finish this up. I do have some one-on-ones after this, so this call is recorded if you guys missed. I'm hoping it's recorded. Yes, it is recorded. Okay, so if you guys missed anything, you guys can always just go back and see anything you missed. But essentially, So say we have price broke this trend line. Okay. So there are two types of traders. There's traders that sell. In this scenario, it's a sell. That sell as soon as the breakout. Okay. They sell as soon as the breakout happens, as opposed to other traders that wait for a retest. That's support and resistance for more confirmation. Okay, so it did break the trend line, but traders would wait for just that pullback to confirm and then write it down. Okay, so that was to answer Matt's question. All right, but yes, exactly. By the lower time frames, I'm referring to the hours and the minutes, like the 2 hour, the 1 hour, the 15, the 5, and the 1 minute. And the higher time frames, I'm referring to the monthly, the weekly, and the daily. Okay. But again, just to throw everything together, all right, so we had the break of this trend line. Okay, we had support to resistance. Okay, because price was support here and it became resistance here. And we have, I believe, our Fibonacci, just measuring it from this swing high to the swing low. All right.